Hi everyone, and welcome to New Wave Studio. Today we're going to be bringing to you a Lighting 101 course. Nothing too crazy and fancy, just enough material to get you started when visiting our studio, as well as getting familiarized with the Profoto strobes here that we have at the studio. So this course is for you if you have a basic understanding of the photography fundamentals, which are the aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. So let's get started. We're going to be going over a couple of things such as studio etiquette, safety, and introduction to the equipment, such as the Profoto lights. We're going to be talking about the Cyclorama wall. So let's get started. First things first, we want to make sure safety is number one here at the studio. Some safety things to consider are looking around to the equipment, making sure that things are not broken. When setting up lights, you want to make sure you're not pinching your fingers with the C-stands. Making sure things are secured when things are mounted onto the C-stand, such as the light, modifiers, and also while bringing in some of these backdrops, moving them in different locations, because we do have a portable backdrop as well as the paper backdrops that are fixed to the wall. But the most important one that I want to talk about today is the Cyclorama wall. It's also known as the Cyc wall or the Infinity wall. So let's talk about the Cyclorama wall. So when we're using a Cyc wall, we want to use it with care as we're shooting on it, because we want to prevent any damage to it, such as if you're a model or a client and you're on the Cyc wall, preventing from going way too far back into it where the curve meets the wall. That is one of the most sensitive parts of that Cyc wall. We can mitigate those damages by either being in the center of the Cyc wall or a little bit forward from that point. Being conscious of these rules helps keep the Cyc wall maintained and functional and cuts down on the maintenance and damage. So let's talk a little bit about safety and brush over that one more time. When we're in the studio, we want to be careful when moving C-stands, as they are fairly heavy and we don't want to get our fingers pinched or any of that. We want to be mindful of toes and fingers on the floor when using rolling stands. And I think one of the more important parts of a C-stand is when we're placing a sandbag on the leg of the C-stand. We want to place it on the opposite side of where the light and modifier are placed, and always line up the light and modifier with one of the legs of the stands, preferably the larger, taller stand, because that will support the most weight. So now that we have that out of the way, let's get started and jump right into the Lighting 101. All right, so here's what we will be using today. We're going to be using a 1 C-stand, 1 Profoto D2 Strobe. There's a variety of light modifiers, but today we're going to be sticking with the Aputure Lightdome SE. It's a 36-inch circular softbox that we're going to be using, as well as a Profoto Air TTL Remote. All right, so with that, let's get started. Let me show you really quick where the C-stands and the strobes are located. So if we walk over here to our equipment, we will see that we have the C-stand here, as well as our lights. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the C-stand and I'm going to bring 1 sandbag. So what I would like to do is bring this over to where I would like my light to be facing when my client is here. So with the sandbag, we want to put it on the back of the stand, and with this rolling one, we're going to lock all of the wheels so that doesn't move out of the way. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab the Profoto D2 Strobe. When I grab the Profoto, I'm going to grab it from the handle back here, but I'm also going to bring the cable for it. So now that I have the cable, I'm just going to tuck it here just so that I don't lose it. When we're putting on the Profoto D2, one of the things that we want to know and keep in mind is there's a little lever here. We want to make sure that this is open so that it fits around the little housing for the C-stand. So it'll go right in there. And then I'm going to want to tighten it, close it up so that it doesn't move from there. Next step is to grab the modifier. I can come here and choose a bunch of modifiers. There's a lot of them that are being used already with what we're filming with, but I'm just gonna grab this Lightdome SE, like we said. It's a 36-inch. It's an Aputure Lightdome SE. Ooh, this is dusty. But here we go. All right, so like I said earlier, these modifiers have the Profoto adapter, and the way we put these on is we simply bring it up to the front. We want to make sure that this tab is unlocked. So it's popped open, and you bring it in here, and then you just push it in. It doesn't go in anymore, and then from here, you just simply tighten the lock. And that is how we add the modifier onto our light. So next up, I'm going to be connecting the power cord. I want to make sure that I connect this end first to the Profoto before I connect it to the electricity. So in order to do that, I want to face it down. So we use this little knob to release tension, and then we tighten it back up. Get my cord, plug it in, and then we plug it into the power. So now that that's plugged into power, if you look back here, I'll tell you a little bit about what these settings do for our light. So we've got the on button, model, setting, and then our strobe tester here, as well as our knob, and that knob is clickable. So we want to go ahead and press on, and we quickly see all of these settings here. The first thing I like to see is the sync, and it tells me that the air remote is going to need to be at channel 1, A. This is going to be strobe A, and it goes A, B, C, D, and so on and so forth, but this will be channel 1, strobe A. Before we get into anything else here, I'll show you what it looks like on the remote trigger so that we can simultaneously do both. So here is what the triggers look like. This is the Profoto Air TTL Remote. This one specifically for Canon, but they all look the same. So the first thing we want to do is press the on button up top, and we get the exact same settings we have here on the Profoto, the D2 itself. So in order to test to see if this light is working and if it matches, we want to go to channel 1 because that is the sync remote where we need to be. Channel 1, and this is going to be A. So we want to make sure that it is highlighted. With that, I'll click test, and there it is, it fired. So very quickly, I'm going to show you how it works from the remote, as this will mainly be on your camera. That way you don't have to come up here and figure out how to move it. So the first thing is we want to make sure that the A is highlighted because that is what our sync is. From here, you have everything from pressing model, which means it'll turn on the modeling light. And if you come out here, you can see that as I press it, it'll turn off. If I press it again, it'll turn back on, and that is with the model section here. If I was to press on head, it will turn off the D2, the entire unit, it will turn it off, and it won't send any signals to there. But for now, we're gonna leave it as is, because I don't wanna turn it off. And then we're going to mess with the energy. So let's come over here, and I'll show you what that looks like here. So the way we want to look at this is in percentages, in values. I find it the easiest way is to look at this by removing the decimal and just looking at it as 40%. So if we dial it down, either on the Profoto head itself or on the energy, this would be 10%, this would be 22%, and so on and so forth until we get to 100%. That's generally how I look at it, and it makes things a lot easier. So in order to bring the lighting intensity down, we're gonna click energy when it's on your camera. And if you press it once, it'll go by decimals. So a tenth of a stop down, so we can go 9.3, 9.2, 9.1, at 9, and so on and so forth. However, if we hold it, it'll go down by in increments of 10%. Do it again, 70%, and then I can just hold it and it'll just keep going until I let go. So right now we have it at 30%, and I'll press test. And you saw, let's just show you really quick how much of an intensity of light that is at 30%. And let's just say, just for fun, let's go to 100, just so you see how much light output that is. Boom, there it is. So with that, let's set up the light in a way where we would use it with a real client and go from there. All right, welcome back. We are here with our model, Tony, who is the founder of Monday Pals. Welcome, Tony. Thank you for coming in. She's gonna be our model for today. And in the process, we're gonna be showing you everything we've been learning so far and put it into action. So follow me. Okay, first of all, Tony, do you mind going into the middle of the cyc wall there? I would say right about there is good. Step to your right a little bit, or actually forward, sorry. To your right, there you go, boom, right there, perfect. Okay, so here is what I usually like to do first. If you come around this way, there is a little knob here on the Profoto D2. We're gonna wanna undo this knob, lefty-loosey, and then bring it down at a 45-degree angle from the C-stand, boom, right there. And the reason for this is because when I bring the C-stand up and it's tall enough, it'll make it easier. It'll already be pointing in the direction of where I'd like to shoot. So with that, a couple of the safety things we talked about. You don't want to pinch your fingers or anything. So hold the C-stand here from the top one, making sure I maintain that pressure. I undo the knob and bring up, usually until it stops, and then I close it back up. If you take a look here, I personally don't think that's tall enough. I'm gonna go a little bit taller. So then we go onto the bottom knob here. Same thing, make sure you hold onto the C-stand, undo the knob, and bring it up more. That might be a little too high, but that looks pretty good to me. I'm just gonna eyeball it. And what I'm doing now is making sure that the light is facing, like the middle of the softbox is pointing at our lovely model. I would like to say maybe pointing at like her eyes and nose and mouth area from the middle of that softbox. So yeah, and if it's not, I will adjust it so that it's pointing directly at her. All right, so let's move on to our camera and trigger. So if you look up here, we've got a little button on the bottom that will lock the trigger into place. You want to make sure that's to the right to unlock the hot shoe. And that will also go on the hot shoe of the camera. Slide that in, all the way in, and then follow the arrow to the left to lock. And you're good. With that, you want to make sure that your trigger is on, and then the go-to settings that I usually like to start off with is, you may or may not be able to see this, but we're going to go to f5.6. We're going to do our shutter speed will be 1/60th of a second, and then our ISO I like to go to 100 to get the least amount of noise on the sensor. So with that, we're going to do a quick test shot with our model, Tony. I'm going to simply, with the settings that I just put on my camera, doesn't matter about the light just yet, we're gonna do a quick test shot. I'm going to just take a quick test shot and preview the picture. It looks way too dark, so from here, instead of adjusting any of the settings, what I like to do is bring up the energy levels up to maybe 1 stop or 2 stops, just to see what that gives me. Based off of that, we're gonna go back, do one more test shot. As you can see, the power increased. When I look back into my image, the whole image has improved. Although I'm not too happy with that yet, so I'm gonna go yet one more stop higher. Take one more quick test image. And then there is our final result, as you can see on the screen. And I'm pretty happy with this. Tony, what do you think?
That looks so nice.
Okay, so now that I'm happy with what I'm getting on camera, let's make this a little bit more professional, get some headshots, and with that, we're going to be getting one of these posing boxes back here. Let's get this one here. We'll bring this one on its side. It's really heavy. We'll have our lovely model have a seat right there. Let's see what that looks like. I'm pretty happy with that. I would say come out to the edge a little bit more and maybe bring one foot in and then extend the other foot out. Perfect. Now, you want to bring your shoulders to your right side. So like one of your shoulders towards the camera, yep, like that. And then maybe bring your chin just down just a tiny little bit. Perfect. And then maybe even like turtling. Do the turtling there. Perfect. Okay. So now that I'm pretty happy with this, I'm going to take another test shot, but with the composition that I'm happy with. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and perfect. Now, because she got a little bit closer and we added the box, there's a little bit of light now, a little bit too much light. So what I'm gonna do here, instead of going down one stop, I'm only gonna go maybe half a stop and see what that gives us. Same thing, hands to your side. Yep, maybe your left shoulder out. And here we go. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. And I'm really happy with this. So here is what the image looks like. Here we go. Your life? Okay, so I really like that image, but now I'm gonna switch up the pose. So let's go and look at our lovely model. Would you mind switching up the pose a little bit? Let's do like a senior portrait style where you have like one knee over, maybe your elbow onto your knee there. Maybe bring your hand up. Let's do other hand. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that looks much better. There it is, perfect. Okay, so I want you to give me a relaxed face, and then on 3, you'll go in for the smile, and then I'm gonna take a photo here. Here we go, 1, 2, 3. Perfect. And, okay, so as a bonus, I wanna show you guys really quick what happens to our background when we bring the light away from our talent. So, let's do that by just simply unlocking the feet here and bringing our light back a ways from our talent and our backdrop. So really quick, let me just demonstrate what this alone does with our model in the same position. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, the image is a lot darker. I do like it, but it's definitely a lot darker. So what we'll do is we'll bring our model and box closer to our light. Keep in mind that the light is further away from the cyc wall. So I can show you some results here. I think I put you too close now. All right, here we go. Okay, so now that we have her a lot closer to the light and we've moved the light back, I want to show you what the background does with this setup compared to our last one. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Perfect. And as you can see, she is exposed correctly, and I'm really happy with this image, but you can see how the background is no longer white because you're moving the light further away, therefore creating the fall off of the light is much further away, creating a gray background. But with that, let's actually get closer to the backdrop than what we started with. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna bring this much further back than when we started. Maybe like right about there. Go ahead and sit right there. And then this time I'm gonna bring the light much, much further in. would say maybe right about there looks pretty good. Lock these wheels and let's do the exact same shot. And let's take notice on what happens with the background here. Here we go, 1, 2, 3. Perfect, and boom, look at that. The background is much, much brighter. I do think it's still a little bright overall, but we can tone that down with maybe going by 0.2 stops. So let's try that one more time. 1, 2, 3. And look at that, much better. So the cyc wall is a lot brighter because the light's closer. Thank you.